All right, coming out right now is a very good friend to the Rob Dennis Show, contributor to the Rob Dennis Show. He is with a just a great organization called Habitat for Humanity. They do such great work. He's going to talk to us about some hints about how to keep our house cool this summer. It's going to get hot this summer. Make welcome to the show, everybody, Norm Miozzi. Norm, welcome back.
Thank
You young whippersnapper. We were talking about whippersnappers earlier. This guy's a smart feller. You guys do great work.
Thank you.
And I'm so glad you consented to be a contributor to the Rob Dennis Show, because there's so many things you can tell people that they may not know. Everybody's interested in saving money, like you talked at one time about how to keep the heat in your house and not go out the windows. Now summer's here. I assume it's coming. Today it's barely 70, so I assume summer will be coming to the Miami Valley. So I remember I told you earlier, I said, I go by a house and I see leaves all over air conditioning. Does people not know not to keep stuff off that, what do you call it?
The
condensing unit,
right.
yeah. Keep stuff off of it.
You're absolutely right, Rob. People don't realize, what happens to their air conditioner with the leaves and the dirt and debris that gets on them, especially over the winter. And then even now, like with the cottonwood, I don't even know what they call the little, the seedlings.
white things.
The little white things, yeah. They get on the air conditioning condensing unit, and on that unit, if you look at it real closely, there's small little fins. So if they get clogged, what happens is the air conditioner can't dissipate the heat that, of course, it's pulling out of the house, right? Yeah. So sometimes you can spray those off with a light spray of water, but you may have to actually have an air conditioning company come out. They have a special little comb that can actually clean those little fins, and then also what it does too is sometimes if you look at those, they get dented maybe by a stick or a stone, and when they straighten them out, it just helps to make them as efficient as possible. Of course, saves you money, right?
Now, these shells around these units, is there screws you can just take the whole shell off and clean the shell separate from the unit? Doesn't work that way?
Not really that way, because the fan usually is attached to it, but the air conditioning company could do that. Air conditioning tech could do that if needed. Most of it he can do from the outside. If you look at it, they're usually accessible.
You wouldn't recommend it for a homeowner?
I would not recommend it for a homeowner with a regular comb, especially one that works here. But
well, also, I think you mentioned one time before, keep the windows closed, and if you've got, you can still do caulking to keep the cold air in.
Sure.
There's probably a lot of areas that people can think about caulking, I'm sure.
Right, just like in the winter time when, of course, you feel the drafts. If you have a draft in the winter, you, of course, are going to have the same drafts in the summertime. And, it works just in reverse. If you lose heat in the winter, of course, you're losing your cooling in the summertime. So it's just as inefficient. You do want to make sure that if your windows need to be caulked, that you caulk them, or, if you can do other things to, sometimes even curtains, even though you don't want to keep your curtains closed, but anything to help stop the draft. I think you even talked about the little draft stoppers that you could put under a door if you have a door that's not sealing properly. Replace that weather stripping or use a draft stop, same thing in the summertime, just like you would in the winter.
I noticed this past winter, I was standing in the kitchen, I saw a gap there, and there was so much cold air coming in that door that goes down to the basement.
Sure.
So I got one of those things you're talking about, and it stopped all the cold air coming up.
Yeah.
Every little bit counts, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then something else, same thing that I try to make sure everybody really thinks about are your filters.
Yeah.
Same, with the filters nowadays, you can spend $30 on a filter. You could spend $3 on a filter. What I try to tell people is find one, it's kind of in the middle. I think you can get a pretty decent filter for about $8 to $10 or something. Sometimes you can get them on sale, but with a MERV rating, as they call it, around 7 or 8. And by replacing your filters in your furnace or air conditioner, right, it keeps everything inside cleaner. And then as you replace it, keep in mind that you're taking all that dirt that's blocking the airflow out so that your furnace or air conditioner, of course, this time of year works more efficiently. It's like, sucking through a straw. If you start to close that straw, it's harder and harder. Well, your furnace has to work harder, your air conditioner has to work harder, and of course, it costs you money.
Yep.
So it'll cost you more than the, $10 every couple months when you replace your filter.
Now, if a home has air conditioning, what do you recommend when you leave to go to work, put it on what temperature, and then when you come home, go up to what temperature?
So the Department of Energy actually recommends for cooling 78 degrees.
While you're home.
While you're home, right. And so to me, that's a little warm. And if I asked my wife to do that, I think she would probably, send me out of the house forever. You agree?
No way.
So I guess what I try to do is I have a separate thermometer, or basically in the room, and so we get it to where it's comfortable for us. And then the idea is that when you do leave, you can raise the temperature, probably almost 10 degrees. And nowadays, programmable thermostats are great, because if everybody's out of the house, you can actually set the programmable thermostat to bring the temperature back down where you're comfortable 30 minutes before you get home, right? So that you really never know, and of course it's going to save you, that air conditioner running while you're at work. So cool.
Now, what about ceiling fans? Isn't it true that if you have air conditioning, do you keep, because heat rises, air conditioning drops, to turn your ceiling fans on low and going up, sucking upward? To bring the cold air which drops up
Make
to
your fans
full-
suck-ups.
Yeah.
So
Is that not true? Don't they help?
Well, so what I do is kind of the opposite, because if you think about it, when you have a fan blowing on you, you feel cooler typically.
Yeah.
So even though you're right, you are pulling air down, but
On
just
low.
on low
Speed.
But when you circulate the air moving on you actually makes it feel cooler. So I guess if you had a really tall ceiling, you wouldn't want to do
Yeah.
that. You wouldn't, because all that heat is going to stay up there. But then in the wintertime, I don't like the air to blow on me. So that's when I reverse it and have it go the other direction, because it kind of takes it out to the walls rather than blowing down you where you're typically, your sofa or something, the chairs are. Okay.
We're going to have to think about this. Norm, thanks for coming. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Rob.
You know you're always welcome to the show. You've always got some great ideas.
Thank you very much.
So keep your condenser out there clean and keep all the stuff away from it so the air can flow clean.
Absolutely.
Good point.